Can you unpack what partnership for you looks like with God?
Partnership looks like for me, and that is the big question, right? I think first of all, I've got to know what we're partnering in. So I think it first begins, obviously, knowing his heart. So that's the given. But the next thing is knowing his plan, knowing his will. Like what aspect? Because the kingdom is so big, the purposes of God is so big. And I'm not even thinking of, some people will divide the sacred secular line. The purposes of God could be me working at Google and not in a church and not in a pulpit and not leading a worship team or,
Yes, please.
whatever. The purposes of God is me being a light wherever God places me. And the amazing thing to me, Julian, is to see that Christians at times, followers of Christ or people, religious people, they'll complain about the darkness they're in. And I'm like, you lose the luxury to complain about darkness when you're in the lighting business.
Oh,
God has put us in the lighting business. And so our job is to be a light. Now, how do I partner with God? First of all, I want to know his heart because I can't represent anyone. I don't know their heart. The other thing, I've got to know the plan that God has for me. And the cool thing about God is God will reveal it. And there's hints. There were hints about what I was called to do at so many levels. I mean, I had some mentors that they began to call it out in me early on. They began to say, Sean, one guy, when I was horrible at public speaking, by the way, my mentor says, in the particular Christian campus movement I was in, my mentor was also my hero. He said, Sean, you'll be one of the greatest communicators that our movement has ever seen. And it's like I probably would have laughed if anyone else said it, but this is my hero mentor. So I just didn't say anything. And I remember thinking, does he really think that about me? Like, does he know, all these things? But I arrived at the point where if he sees that in me, then maybe that's in me. And so as he began to call that out, from that point on, I started a Bible study, and I started to I wasn't good at communicating, but I could handle 2 or 3 in a room, but it quickly grew. But I started to partner with the Lord to communicate. But I was witnessing to people outside and telling people about the Lord left and right. So part of it is discovering his heart. The other part is discovering his plan, and then discovering what are the giftings that God has given you to do. Like, I know the world says this, and I know different people land different places. I'm not the biggest fan of stay in your lane, but I do understand the principle of it. And my feeling is the only problem with staying in your lane is that I believe that you can change lanes. I feel like it's more of a highway, and God had me in this lane, but I'll go through a season of life where he shifts me to this lane and he shifts me to this lane. So if stay in your lane is understand your gift mix, understand the grace on your life, what you have permission to step into, amen. But I also feel like I don't want to limit God, nor do I want to limit the gift within me to say, I got to stay in this lane. The glorious thing about God is when the Spirit of the Lord came on Saul, King Saul in the Old Testament, the first reigning monarch of Israel, it says the Spirit of the Lord came upon him, but the prophet said to him, you will do as the occasion demands. And that's what I feel like the Spirit of God comes on us and we do as the occasion demands. When I'm partnering with God in my purpose, I see fruit. When I'm partnering with God in my purpose, I begin to feel the pleasure. It's like this guy, I think his name's Eric Liddell. They did Chariots of Fire movie. Says, when I run, I feel God. I think when you're partnering with God in your purpose, you feel the pleasure of God. You see fruit, and others attest to the fact of, wow, when you do that, there's something special about that. Because I think for the most part, if God doesn't give us a joy in doing it, we're not going to really do it well enough or often enough. So absolutely. Partnering with God will also, you'll experience the joy of the Lord in that area. But truth be told, Julian, that is the question of the century. Like, that is a big, awesome question. How do you partner with God? And the other thing I think finally, I'm just getting little thoughts here and there, is that you just stay in a place where your ear is to the heart of the Father so he could shift you. Because partnering with God in this 2023 will look different than partnering with God in 2022. And so it's like, I need to get those fresh battle plans, that fresh strategy, if that makes sense.